I'm Sandra Bennett, and this is Frazzled Freya. She's a frill-necked lizard, and she lives in the far north tropical Queensland and Northern Territory. I live down further east and south, just south of Canberra. So the lizards around where I live are actually eastern bearded dragons. They're slightly different to frill-necked lizards, but they are also very similar. I'd suggest sometime, if you get a chance, to Google the two and see if you can spot the difference. But in many ways, they are also very similar. They're both very timid little reptiles, but they also both very much like to bask in the sun. If you try and come close to one, though, they'll both run away and hide. A frill-necked lizard will keep its frill down off its neck if it's basking in the sun. But if it sees you coming, it will stand up on its hind legs and open up that frill neck very wide and try and look very threatening. But it's not really very threatening at all. When it sees you get too close, it will just run away and hide. Are you ready for the story? All about Freya and how frightened she is. Let's go. Okay. Frazzled Freya. Written by myself, Sandra Bennett, and illustrated by the amazing Dianna. Dianna is also a Canberran. Canberra, by the way, is the capital of Australia. Did you know that? Not many people do if you live overseas. Lots of people think the capital of Australia is Sydney, but it's not. Sorry. Freya feared she would be frizzled by the midday sun. And she's basking. Do you tend to sit outside in the sun too long and get too hot? So she hid under a rock to watch her friends frolic and have fun. Have you ever sat by and watched your friends have fun and wished you could join them but didn't, but been too frightened to? Goanna begged her to play. But under a rock, Frazzled Freya was determined to stay. Racing from bush to bush were two twin geckos, Gabby and Grace. They laughed loud and long as they set a rather fast pace. Frazzled Freya appeared briefly from under her rock, only to go back in terror and shock. She wanted to go out and play and join them, but she was too frightened. I wonder what frightened her. Can you see? She desperately wanted to play with her friends in a place where it was cool and the shade never ends. Here in the outback, that's impossible to find unless there's an oasis or a billabong of some kind. Do you know what an oasis or a billabong might be? So Freya took a deep breath and counted to 3, stepped out from under her rock to set herself free. So she took a deep breath. Sometimes you have to be brave, don't you, and have a go. Her leathery skin tingled, for what did you think she saw? Standing right there was a rather huge dinosaur. Poor Frazzled Freya darted from the nearest bush. When she glanced back, the monster had gone in a whoosh. Gabby and Grace stopped playing and stared. What is it? What's the matter? Why are you so scared? Freya was too frazzled to give a reply. She shivered and shook and felt ready to cry. Joanna gave up and went elsewhere to play. The twins quickly followed, to Freya's dismay. They gave up on Freya. They didn't want to help. They didn't want to stay. It wasn't long before a slippery brown snake slithered into view. He spied Frazzled Freya and flicked his tongue with hunger anew. "What is it, little one? What do you fear? Tell Uncle Sloane, why don't you whisper in my ear?" Sloane slid closer and began to circle with glee. He didn't think Frazzled Freya would attempt to flee. She stepped to the left. She turned to the right. Before one final giant leap, Freya ran for all her might. "The snake was not what frightened you," a little voice squeaked. "I know this to be true." Molly the field mouse had been nibbling a leaf. She shook her head at Freya in quiet disbelief. Freya crept a little closer to the tiny mouse, still afraid to leave the shelter of her bush house. Molly then asked, "What exactly do you think you saw?" "A monster with a shield around its neck, like a huge, scary dinosaur." "I really wish I could join in all the fun," Freya shivered, "but I'm much too frightened to go out in the sun." "Let's play shadows," suggested Molly Mouse as she jumped and ran. "Try and catch my shadow if you think you can." Freya quickly watched for a moment from the safety of her rock. Little by little she crept forward in an attempt to keep stock. "You're it!" Molly shouted as she stood on Freya's monster. Freya froze and stared at the shadow in front of her. "I know," she grinned. "I have a better game to play. Hide and go seek. Let me show you the way." Freya stopped to look at her friends' smiling faces. "And I know all the best hiding places." Freya, the field-necked lizard, danced and pranced from rock to rock, no longer frazzled, frightened, or in terror or shock. With her desert friends, she had faced her fears. Freya could now stand tall without worry or tears. So she played games and learnt how to face that frightening fear. Do you think you know what it was that she was frightened of? Let's see if you do. Perhaps you can go out in the sun and play shadows or tip or tag yourself when it's finished. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you can learn to face your fears as well. Thank you for joining me today. Bye.